can Nintendo legally brick your Nintendo Switch 2? You know, the Nintendo Switch 2 come out. It is widely popular. People have been, you know, wanting this for a while. It has been successful, sold over 5 million consoles from what's been reported. But then there's also the worry that Nintendo is going to take that ability to play this console away from you if you don't agree to their terms of service, which, by the way, allows Nintendo to actually restrict the ability to actually use the Switch 2. Now, I want to say, I'm going to go over this in the video, and I want to talk about my thoughts on this. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like all that stuff. Yeah, so Nintendo actually can break your system if you agree to their terms of service. Their terms of service, obviously, saying, you know, if you use it for like modding or to play, you know, illegitimate games, or you use it to basically, you know, cheat in online games, they will brick your system. Now, obviously, cheating in online games, I'm not a fan of. Emulation, you know, some games you kind of have to emulate because they're not being resold and not being made available by the company. I also do want to make a note in this video. Nintendo is one of the companies that actually opposed Stop Killing Games. So therefore, you got to understand in this situation where I feel about this. As someone who collects retro games, someone who cares about game preservation. Kind of annoying. Kind of very annoying, actually. Now, with that, Nintendo Terms of Service does say that they can brick your system. However, they are actually facing a lot of legal arguments in Brazil to stop that, and I do feel like a lot of other countries should, you know, pay attention to this and should actually make a landmark ruling, because realistically, a lot of companies like Nintendo, like Apple, like Samsung, like Google have these devices that they make which they could easily just take away your ability to play them or use them. You know, if Apple decided they weren't going to let you use an iPhone because you put the wrong app on it, or you put something on there they didn't like, you know, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I think Nintendo shouldn't be allowed to do that either. Now, I understand they are trying to preserve their own platforms, their own services and all that stuff. I understand all that. But then you also got to remember that there are people like, there's a Switch 2 user who got his account banned by Nintendo. His Switch stopped working because he bought second-hand games on Facebook Marketplace that someone else had ripped the ROMs for and used on a modded Switch 1. Now, obviously, I feel like this system is not fit for purpose, let's be real. And I do feel like we shouldn't allow companies to take away what we've rightfully paid for, what we've rightfully, obviously, spent our hard-earned money on. And I do feel like, you know, having, like, Nintendo tell people that, like, hey, if you use the Switch 2 the way we don't want you to use it, we will brick your system. I do think that's a little bit iffy, and I do think a lot of people should push back more on it. And I do feel like countries and territories like the EU, you know, the United States government, and places like that need to actually, you know, have a meeting with Nintendo executives and sort of say, well, hang on, what, you can't do that. Because if Brazil wins this case, it will be a landmark case. It will be a case where, you know, other tech companies and other companies that sell technological products, you know, should be worried, because obviously, why should we allow these companies to do that? And I do feel that, like, a company like Nintendo, for example, who has a diehard fan base, they can't justify it. Like, if you're going to buy a Switch 2, you're most probably already in the Nintendo ecosystem or a fan of Nintendo products. So therefore, you're more likely to actually spend money on Nintendo products and services to actually play their games the way Nintendo wants you to play them, right? So why would they be so concerned about the odd Tim or Joe who is, you know, buying a Switch 2 to mod the Switch 2 to run emulators? Because, not being funny, I don't understand, like, the average person who uses a Switch 2 or has a Switch 2 is not using it to mod it. You know, especially when the Steam Deck is cheaper and you can do a lot more stuff with the Steam Deck for modding, why would you buy a Switch 2 to mod it? Yes, there is the aspect of playing it on a TV, I do understand that. But the thing is, like, I don't think Nintendo should be allowed to ban users. And the fact that they can ban users, to me, is a bit of a concern that not enough people are talking about. Because all the other YouTubers like Beat 'em Ups and Arlo, they're too busy, you know, they're too busy sitting there looking at Doug Bowser. Oh yes, Mr. Bowser, thank you, Mr. Bowser, I appreciate you, Mr. Bowser. When really we should be calling out what Nintendo is doing with this sort of stuff. And, you know, yes, I know I'm a hypocrite because I'm a Nintendo YouTuber. I bought a Switch 2. I know I'm a hypocrite. I get that. Yeah, thank you, Tim, Joe, and Barry, who will be commenting that in 5 minutes after seeing this video. But yeah, I do feel like we need to say something. And I do hope that if Stop Killing Games is successful, more people take notice of what Nintendo's doing with the Switch 2. And they will, obviously, that will get dragged through European courts as well. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, turn notifications. I've been Easy, and let me know your thoughts on this. It's quite a serious topic, quite serious video, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I've been Easy, and I'm signing out. Peace.